Hey, all you perfectionists. Welcome to Perfect Edition Comics. I'm your host, Perfect. And today we're going to find out why this Conan is the best jumping on point for you if you're a new reader. And also, is it one of my reads of the year so far? Join me to find out. Let me just flip this over and show you the back cover. This does collect issues 1 through 12 of Conan The Barbarian, which came out this year. Beautiful little spine with a nice little Conan at the bottom there. As I said, it collects 12 issues in total and is 296 pages. Inside of the dust jacket, you just got a little bit of a synopsis and some quotes. And on the back, you have a little bit of blurb about the creators. Let's take a look under the dust jacket. And under the dust jacket, we have this awesome map. This is a fantasy series, so you got to have a map. I love these things. This folds out, and then you get the whole thing like that. Beautiful colors on this as well. I'll tell you a little bit about how I used it in my reading experience as we get through this. Opening up, you got this title page, beautiful coloring, and then your creators. Asrar does the covers for this series, and they are such a treat, and they really evoke that classic Conan feel that matches this book perfectly. Matthew Wilson on colors also just matches the artwork, and I'll get to that a bit later. First of all, we have this issue number 1 ribbage cover, a little bit of a quote on the right, and then the maps again. That kind of these two kind of pages always work for each issue as you go through this book. Let me tell you a little bit about what to expect from the story for this one. First, I guess I should talk a little bit about my Conan experience. So I've dabbled in the movies and comics over the years, but I'm not a Conan aficionado. And this book, for me and for others, I'm sure, is a great entry point on the prolific history and lore of the Conan mythos. So what does this 12-issue oversized hardcover contain? Well, really, it's a series of short stories. But it's more than that as well. Let me explain. So it's a series of tales that are interspersed throughout Conan's life. Kind of from, his time as a 17-year-old all the way through to his latter days as king. One interconnected story that puts this whole thing together is the theme of the Crimson Witch and her thread that carries throughout each and every story. Each story starts and ends in its specific issue, but there's always a few pages in each issue connecting the larger narrative throughout. The payoff's also there because the recurring connection between all 12 stories does connect and does have a definite ending, which I found very satisfying. From jungles and tribes to pirates on the open seas, this book will have at least one issue or story that will become a favorite of yours. In between each issue, you will find a cover by Ribbich, as I said, and then also a map on the right-hand side, which denotes exactly where the adventure is taking place. I also always use this outside map on the book and kind of trace the adventure that I was reading at the time. Love the fact that the maps were connected to this, because as a fantasy fan, I've always read books with maps, and this really just got me so into this world and into the fantasy of what was going on. I found myself regularly just flipping to the back of the book, looking at the cover and finding out where I was in the world. This is a very dense read. You'll see here there's a lot of text in areas, but it's good stuff. It really kind of gets you into each short story and gives you a lot of background and really gets you engaged. Because it does time jump and go around a lot, that is necessary to get you in quickly and out the other side with a solid story in each of these issues. I did mention Matthew Wilson as a colorist earlier, and I did want to point out why I feel he's a great match for this artwork. There's all these flushed cheeks and skin tones that you'll see that bring a rustic and human touch to a great coloring job. For me, just these little hints on the cheeks and the skin and the knee bones and everything, it just adds a lot of depth to the artwork, which I think really matches what Mahmud Asrar was trying to portray in his art. Again, stunning cover kind of scenario by Ribbich with a map for this issue. I did want to point out this issue because it is by the second artist in this, which is Gerardo Zaffino. He has a bit of a different style, a bit of a sketchy Bill Sienkiewicz kind of style. You'll see that here, just looking at the line work on the skin tones and everything else. But it does really match really well to the story. It's this rough-hewn, sketchy line style with touches of Bill Sienkiewicz thrown in. His work is darker in tone to Asrar, but still fits the book, and specifically the stories that were chosen for him in this book, very, very well. The tone is set and kept throughout. There's this this kind of rawness to it that's fantastic. This is one of my favorite stories actually, which is more about Conan kind of in his days as a pirate on a ship, or references his days as a pirate, which I've personally found fascinating, and like kind of a rip-roaring high seas tale with monsters and everything else. Very cool. Let's take a look at the extras in the back here. To kick it off, of course, who other than Scotty Young doing his kind of baby Conan, which is very cool. Not all of the variant covers are full size, so you have one on the left and then a bunch of thumbnails on the right most of the time. Got some big hitters here. Here's Chris Bacallo and Tim Townsend doing their thing, which is just stunning and so different from the other variants that were on this run. Of course, you also have John Tyler Christopher with his legendary figure variants, Conan, Conan the King, and then the Crimson Witch. And couple of others in here as well. Let's quickly take a look at the binding. There you go, it is a sewn binding on an oversized hardcover by Marvel, so I think you know what to expect by now. Paper's pretty lightweight though, I must admit. Let me snap my magical fingers and get this dust jacket back on for you. For me, this definitely is one of my reads of the year so far. Maybe a bit controversial since not everyone loved this book. I just love the way it told a whole bunch of interconnected short stories that let me learn more about the character, and in the end had a great payoff as well. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, drop a comment below to tell me just how wrong I am and how much you absolutely hated this book, or be positive for once and tell me how much you loved this book. And remember, stay perfect. See ya.